Hi, in this little movie I wanted to talk about making objects in Maya and making some modifications to existing objects as well. So we'll take a look at a couple of tools and hopefully I won't stumble around too much, but it'll help. You can see I made this kind of a goofy model. It's based off of two toruses that I was able to merge together, and then I did a couple of extrusions off of them, and it has kind of this soft look. So we'll talk about that in a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and just make a new scene here and save this old scene. And in the new scene I'm going to go ahead and make a torus. Now depending on what your settings are under create, if I go to polygon primitives, notice that interactive creation is turned off, and in the tutorials that you're working on a lot of times they have this turned off, but let me just show you the difference with it turned on. So again, I'm going to just verify, so I'm under polygon primitives interactive creation. With it turned on, what I do is I drag out a torus and I can build that as I go, and depending on the shape that you're building, you might drag out a cube, and you start with a base and then you build up the top. So interactive creation on means that you're going to kind of do a couple of steps involved with it. I'm just going to select this stuff and press delete. Let's try it again with that turned off. And now I click on the torus and it just makes a default torus for us. If I zoom in on it, you can see that we've got a number of polygons around it. Again, you can alter those if you come over to the channel box. Notice under inputs, I just click on polytorus and it tells me how many subdivisions. So if I put in 10, notice that I only have 10 little segments radiating out from the center. And for height, it's 20. Let's put in 5. And now I've got something much blockier. So one cool thing about Maya that isn't present in a whole lot of different 3D programs is this idea that you can come back to an object and alter it after you've worked on it. So if I click away, I work on something else, and I come back, in the channel box I can always go under inputs and alter this. And by the way, you can, if I click on ptorus1, I can always rename this something like donut1, and it takes all of that information in. Okay, so that's my first guy. I'm going to make another one of these. So I'm going to just move this guy down in space, and we'll just insert another one. Here's another one, and let's make some changes to it. I'll still use 10, and then for the height, let's do 10 as well. So it's a little different now compared to the one below it, but that's okay. Now what I'm going to try to do is bridge between these two shapes to kind of make that connection that we saw earlier. So first thing I want to do is I want to delete a polygon. Now I have a problem when you're working with objects. Again, I'm working with polygons. When you work with polygons, right now I'm in object mode. So if I try to click on just a polygon face, it's going to select the entire object. So if you right click, and I'm just going to choose face instead, it allows me to select a particular face. If I click on that face and then press Command X to cut it, notice it's chopped out a part of that donut. I'm going to do the same thing up above, so I've effectively taken a bite out of the donut. So up here, again, I'm going to click and choose face, so choose this little guy, cut it out. Alright, so now I have two shapes that have this emptiness in them, and I'm going to create a bridge shape that goes between these guys. To do that, I need to select both shapes first. Oh, and I have to set this one back to object mode, so I'm just going to right click. Let's click away and try it again. There we go. So I have both of them selected. I just held down Shift to select the second one, or you can just drag a marquee. Now they're both selected. I'm going to go under Mesh and just choose Combine. Now the difference with that is that now if I click on one, it selects both. It treats them as the same object. When you're getting ready to bridge between two objects, that's going to be key. You're going to want to combine them first. Now I'm going to go under Select, and I'm just going to want to choose the Edge Loop tool. I think that's the one. Let's try it out. Select Edge Loop tool, and I double clicked and it didn't find the edge, so I'm going to just hold down Shift and select the edges along the bottom. And then up top here, you can kind of see the border. I'm just holding down Shift, selecting those as well. Okay, so I've got them both selected. Now, under Edit Mesh, I'm going to choose Bridge. And what Bridge does is it looks at those two openings and it builds a set of polygons that bridges the gap, which is really slick. When you do this, you want to make sure that your polygons, you have the same amount of edges on both so that it can figure out how to bridge between there. But this is real handy. You can build edges of parts and then just bridge between them. Remember, you need to choose Combine first. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and move over here. I'm going to go back to Object Mode. So when I select it, I have the whole object. And let's see if I can put something in here. I'm going to see if I can put in some extra edges. I'm going to choose Insert Edge Loop tool. And notice it gives a little heads up what I need to do. Click on an edge to define an edge loop. So I'm going to click around here and I'm going to come up around the edge of this. And it just says to insert, press Enter. So what I did is I double clicked on the edge and it looked at this and said, okay, I'm going to divide this into 4 and go ahead and press Enter. And now I've got 4 little sets of polygons going across rather than just one. And in fact, if I right click on this and choose Face, I can select a face here and work with just that. Well, what can you do with a polygon face? One of the neat things you can do, I'm going under Edit Mesh, and again, if you don't see this menu, remember I've got polygons selected here. So if you have something else, make sure that you switch over to polygons. Under Edit Mesh, there's this nice little guy, Extrude. And check out what Extrude does. So I'm going to zoom around here. Extrude, I've got some move arrows, so if I click and drag out, what it does is it builds polygons around the edges here. So I can now kind of, I think of Play-Doh and how Play-Doh extrudes through those little shapes that you'd have. This is the same kind of deal. So I can extrude out, that's what the arrows are for. I can drag the arrows one way or the other if I want to move that a little bit. I can scale by clicking the little scale buttons here. It's a little awkward, but you can do it. And if I want to rotate these, I can rotate them as well. So I can make an adjustment there. Once I've got that done, I can go under Edit Mesh, Extrude again, drag this little guy out, and now I've got a second extrusion coming out. And we can take a look and see how this works. Maybe I scale this down a little bit. And maybe I'm bored with that one, so maybe I extrude from another section. So maybe from here on the top, now that I have kind of this little arm coming out, I can choose Edit Mesh, Extrude. Pull this out, scale it, and so forth. You get the idea. Extruding is pretty fun. What you do is you start with a selection and then build out. Now you can also do it with multiple faces selected. If I come in and select these two guys and do extrusions, what happens is they'll come out together, and then I have to scale them a little bit. But you kind of see the idea. So you can work at an object level, you can work at a face level. If I come in here, I can also choose vertex level. So what does vertex level, well, first of all, I'm sorry, I need to just switch this back. Let's go to the object menu, click away so nothing's selected. Okay, there we go. If I switch over to vertex now, vertex deals with all the little points. So if I'm holding down shift here, I can click on some of these points and I can move them if I want and make an adjustment at a vertex level rather than an object or face level. So now you can see I've kind of applied a little bit of deformation there. Alright, so far so good. Now how did I get that rounding that was occurring? First of all, let me set this back to object mode. You can see how cool right-clicking is. Jumping around between these guys makes it a lot easier. Alright, so from the original it was much smoother than this. So here's the trick. If you press 2 above your alpha characters, it smooths, but you also have these little cages. If you've used a program like Lightwave, those cages are handy. If I switch over and go to vertex mode, notice that I can select one of these items if I can. Let's see if I can get it. Maybe I can't. That's going to be tricky. Well, I spoke too soon. Let's go back to object mode. Alright, have this selected and go to 3. The cages disappear. Let's see if we can go to vertex mode here and see if there's a difference. There, now it becomes selected. So I guess when you're working with Maya, you'd have to make a vertex adjustment instead. So I pressed 3 on the numeric keypad to get it to do that adjustment, by the way. So now, yeah, I could come in here and make these adjustments, but the key thing is now I've got that kind of this blobby face rather than the original face. The original face was with 1 on the keypad. 2, you see the original polygon faces with the kind of subdivided surface underneath, and then 3 is just with the subdivided surface. I'm going to go ahead and set this to object mode. Now let's experiment with this for a second. I'll go ahead and render this, and let's see what our render settings are. It's Maya software right now, and if I render this shot, aha, when I render it with Maya software, it just sees the original polygons. Well, that's kind of problematic. So what happens if I switch this over to hardware? Let's see if there's any difference. Hardware sees the smoothness, so that's kind of a difference. So now what it's doing is it's asking the display card to actually do the rendering for me rather than the software. The display card knows how to do this soft-edged rendering. And if we use Mental Ray, you'll remember Mental Ray from some of our in-class discussions is kind of a high-quality renderer. We get that soft edge too. So anyway, I hope in this little video you get an idea for the different types of modeling you can do. Up until this point, we've just been kind of throwing primitives onto the stage and working with some primitives. But you can go to a deeper level. You can select faces, you can cut them out, you can bridge between objects. Remember, choose combine. When you do that, you're going to go under mesh and combine with 2 selected objects. You draw a selection around each, combine them together, and then you can start doing some of the stuff that you'll find under edit mesh, like bridge, and extrude as well. But you'll encounter some of this stuff when you're working on the tutorial for the helmet. Just want you to be aware of being able to play with this stuff ahead of time. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.